Hello, everyone. Welcome to the third session of our watercolor basic techniques live stream. So, I already have more or less everything ready. Today, I have a bit of a problem with the lighting, so I hope you can see it well. I put all the lights I have, so I hope that will do. Anyway, welcome to this session. Thank you very much for joining. As always, if you have any comment or any question during the live stream, you can unmute yourself or send a message to the chat. Let me open the chat so I can see it as well. Okay, here it is. Cool. So if you have any questions, you can unmute yourself and make the question or write it in the chat. I will be checking it from time to time. So today, as you already read on the Patreon post, we are talking about two new watercolor techniques you need to know so you can use them in your painting. One of the watercolor techniques is lifting, and another one is masking. So I'm sure you have seen both of them. So both watercolor techniques are used for keeping the white of the paper, okay? For keeping the white or for bringing up the white again after painting something. So as you know already, probably in watercolors, we usually don't have a white watercolor. We have only the rest of colors. Some sets come with a white watercolor paint, but it's not very common. That's why for painting light, bright scenes and white in watercolor, we use the white of the paper. So we leave the part that we want white without any paint, so untouched. That's why there are these two techniques, lifting and masking, in order to help us keep the white of the paper untouched and that it can shine through our painting. So the first technique is very easy. I wrote you a lot of different uh, materials you will need for this session. You don't need them all. I just will show you all of them because I want to give you as many options as possible, but then it's enough if you choose one or two, that you want to try it out and then you use them. I mean, you don't need to have all the supplies I put there, okay? It's just so you know. So the first technique we will check today is called masking. And for that, I will show you, this is something you have already seen before a lot of times. Is you use washi tape, this kind of washi tape or painter's tape. Okay, this is the tape you use when you are going to paint your home and you cover like the light switches, you cover everything you don't want paint on. So you use this kind of painter's tape. So yeah, you can either choose painter's tape or washi tape. Just make sure you use tape that is really soft, that is not sticking that much, and that will not damage your paper when you remove it. So you have probably seen already this from other watercolor artists. They usually, well, not usually, but sometimes they keep clean edges, so they have like a little frame for them on their paintings. And they do this by using the masking technique, which means we mask the part of the paper we want to cover so it doesn't get any paint, and then we paint against it. And you already saw me doing this on the first live stream session, if I'm not wrong, when we practiced the two color gradients. I will show you now. So yeah, as I told you, you already saw this probably from other artists. Let me check one thing here. For example, I have this painting, and as you see, I added the tape around to make this border, you see? So yeah, you also saw me doing that when we started doing the two color gradients here. I put tape here all around this, so the rectangles are already made. I don't need to draw them, right? So mainly you paint against and even over this tape. Just make sure you tape all the sides and the edges perfectly. Here I notice I had a grain salt, a grain of salt, sorry, because I've been painting before with another person, so I show them some salty techniques that we will see later. So mainly this is one of the techniques, masking, but this can you be used for other things. For example, imagine that I want to paint a very straight horizon line, right? We can do this. If I want to paint a very straight horizon line, like this one, then I'm ready. I can paint this already one color and this another color, or imagine I want this to be the sky, but I want this one to be the horizon line. So maybe what I can do is I'm adding quite some water. By the way, you don't need to tape this to the table as I did. You can tape it to a different cardboard, any sort of board that you can move around. So right now I'm bounded to this, like I cannot move from here because this is taped here, but yeah, feel free to use it on a different board. So today is not that important that you see my water, but if you need to see it, I will show it, okay? So mainly here, imagine I'm just adding some blue sky. As you know, I love to do the clouds like this, wet on wet. So they have fluffy edges. So I do my skies wet on wet because I really love how they turn out. So you see I'm painting over the tape, and that's all right. I mean, the tape is avoiding me to go over the line. Just make sure to have sticked this one properly, really well to the paper, mainly so we avoid things. I'm adding here now a bit of shadow because the clouds, even if you don't see it, they have some shadow. They are not 2D. They are three-dimensional. That's why I'm adding some shadow in the thicker parts of, of the cloud. Okay, so that's a way of masking, right? But imagine that I want to paint here, I don't know, some trees. Let's do that. I think that's a very good example. So let me tape it here. For this one, let me use this other tape. You can also tape the edges without taping it to the table. So you just need to make sure to not stick the ends to the table, like the ends of the tape to the table. Okay, so imagine that here I want to paint some trees. Okay, this is a forest. So one tree. Another tree, and maybe, I don't know, this one is thicker. Is this one thicker? Yeah, this one is thicker. So what about the here? Okay, so these are tree trunks. Okay, so these are tree trunks. Of course, they will be smaller trees, so you need to either use a smaller, like a thinner tape. I have some thinner tapes. I will show them to you so you see that they exist. Possible to find them. Okay, see this is thinner, and I have thinner tape, right? So, but this is not the only way to mask, okay? You can mask with tape. You can also use some paper, copy the, like cut the paper in a specific shape and then put it there, and while you paint, just make it be in place, stay in place, etc. But there are other ways, more sophisticated ones, like masking fluid. So this is masking fluid. It's also called film de masquage in French. And then mainly what this does, this is like a kind of plastic. You have two different formats. You have like this format with fine tip, or you have a marker format. Okay, this is the marker format. So we will use them. You see how to use them. You need to move them very, very well, shake them well before using them. Shake them super, hyper, mega well. The problem with shaking them this well is that they will get bubbles. So we will see. I'm shaking both very well. I open this one, for example, just to start. And then I will start. I will put some here so you see how it is. Let me zoom in a little bit. Sorry. And then I will make some branches here and there. I will mask some branches. And I don't know if you can see that, but it's like a kind of white liquid. I'm making the branches thicker because otherwise they don't look like they belong to this tree. But you can also, you need to let this dry, by the way. You need to dry very, very well. So we will see, we will need to leave that for a while. The thicker you use it, the more time you need to leave it dry. Then this one is blue, if I'm not wrong. So we can see it well while we, yes, while we paint. I mean, these trees are too thick. These tree trunks are too thick, I think, for, and also too, they are too straight, right? Like trees are usually more like wicked. They are more not so straight, say. Sorry, today I can't find my words in English. I don't know why. It is what it is. I can also make here some smaller trees, like so. And remember that everything I'm doing now is just so when I paint on top, this part that I'm using, that I'm masking, is not covered by paint. So you need to think this is what does not get paint, right? Okay, I will leave it like this. We will let it dry and I will show you what happens. So this is masking fluid, another way to mask. This one already dry, so I will remove the tape, like remove it really, really softly, really gentle, like this. You see, and you can really, really see, sorry, this a bit, yes, like this. So you can really see that crisp line, right? I didn't go over the line. So really, you really, really see the crisp line there that the paper left. So it's the same supposed to be the same here on the sides, right? If we place it correctly, should have crisp lines. Then here, we can do other kinds of masking. For example, I ask you to bring a crayon. I ask you to bring a candle, a white candle. I don't have a white candle with me, but you can test it. I promise you it works. I will make a very good exercise I did before with another student, which is I will paint some rocks here, like if this was the sea. Okay. Imagine we are on the sea. Okay. So these are rocks. And then what I'm going to do here is with this color, I mean, this is white. I will find another white because this one is a bit yellowish. So let me find, this one is perfect. You see, this one is more yellowish, this one is white, more white. And these are wax crayons, by the way. You can use oil pastel, oil crayons, you can use other kinds of oils. I'm just using this because this is what I have mainly. So I will then start to paint here with this crayon. I cannot see it very well, and you cannot see it very well neither. But sometimes that's something good because we don't think about the result that much. But I'm trying to paint kind of foam. Okay, so I'm trying to paint some foam from the sea. And I don't see what's going on. But now what I will do is I will paint over with some turquoise water. I'm sorry for this setup, but I want you to really see the painting today, and I have not very good lighting. So let me paint this. I'm mixing turquoise with dark. Please do this with me if you have your watercolors as well. I'm painting the sea. And what you will see appear is the marks I've made with my crayon. And they are very weird marks because I didn't see what I was doing. I mean, you can already notice. They are so weird, like. But that's fine. That's not a problem. Okay, you see all the marks I've done with my white crayon. We will fix them later, so no worries. If you don't like the shape you've made, that's fine. I went a bit overboard with the horizon line, but it's not a big of a deal, honestly, for me. But the important thing here is that you mask the parts you don't want to paint, so they are kept white. This is exactly what's going on here with the crayon. We will add more depth by painting the farther border darker, okay? Perfect. And then we need to leave this to dry. And this one, I didn't show you a close-up, but you see, it's still wet some places. The white one is wet because I put a thick layer. This one, the one with the marker, it's almost dry because the layer is more uniform, you know? The layer I painted is less thick. That's why it takes less time to dry. So we leave the white spaces to dry yet. If you can, if you want, you can use a hair dryer to dry it out. We will see if we will need to use it maybe later. But yeah, this is one of the ways of masking. What you can do as well is to use acrylic paint. For example, I always have my acrylic gouache with me when I paint outside because sometimes I want to add the white after painting and sometimes I want to add the white before painting and then masking them. And because this is acrylic paint, you will not have any problem, like watercolor will not react with this acrylic paint. So that you can also do it at the beginning or when you want to mask some part. Okay, so in order to show you the next step, I will need to use the hair dryer, so we are not here forever. If you didn't paint yet this this seascape, maybe it's the time for you to do so. Sorry, I was retouching that. Is it time for you to do so? I will mute myself for some seconds and I will use the hair dryer. Okay, so this one is already dry. I dried this one a little bit, but it's still small time, so let's leave it there. I see my paper, something is wrong with this paper because the colors are not as vibrant as I'm used to. So what I will do is I will do a second layer. And by the way, yes, watercolor paper can expire. So if you see your paper doesn't behave as you know and as you expect, it's probably because your paper expired. So this is your sign to not hold up watercolor paper and leave it in a drawer without using it. Use it because this one, I probably saved it for a very long time and then that's why it's not working as I expected it to work. So yeah, let's see if with a second layer it works better. This is because the gelatin that the paper has expires mainly. So let me mute myself just for a couple of minutes and let's try again. Okay, so that's better. This one still needs drying. This is the inconvenience of using masking fluid, that it's very difficult for us to let it dry completely. I totally suffer from this as well. So now I will paint the rocks. I want you to paint with me as well the rocks if you want, because they are darker than the blue that we were using. you can paint them on top. I make sure I make different hues of brown, for example, and that I make some kind of texture. I'm just putting some different brown colors here and there. I'm trying to see the rocks because I don't see all of them. So you see, I start maybe with a color, a lighter color, and then I try to bring it down to make it darker, and then I will add darker color on the base, for example, and also here I make some kind of points. I try to give texture while the rock is still wet. Okay, so more color. I don't see any more my rocks, but that's fine. We can think about where they were. Here, for example, here. The only thing I will tell you is that you make an odd number, not a even number. 7, okay, that's fine. And then, yes, you can add the darker color if you want to some parts of the rocks to make them 3D. So they have some kind of depth. I mean, this is not mandatory, it's just, you see them very, very dark right now, but that's fine. I can also bring this up so you can see it better. They are quite dark anyway because I did the background darker, like much darker than I thought, and that's why they look quite dark. But that's fine because it's perfect for the example I will show you now. So I show you all different ways of masking. Okay, these are all maskings. Everything is masking. Everything I show you right now is masking, right? So I'm trying to see if this is, I think this is dry enough. Let me check again. Let me just give me a few seconds of drying it. So I'm preparing here a mix of dark green color because I want the background of these trees to be dark green. So now I have this. I will just go over everything. Don't worry, don't be afraid of anything. Of course, this needs to be dry. So make sure the the masking fluid is dry. That's the only concern you need to take into consideration. But now you can paint freely over everything. Even if you want to, I don't know, add a second color at the bottom or make it darker at the bottom because there are some bush trees. I don't know. Let's make some bush trees. Some bushes here, like so, like a kind of brighter green. We can also think of doing this. Now we let this dry completely. Just make sure you've painted all over the lines, like along the lines. You see that you didn't miss anything. For example, here I missed a little bit. Is that we make sure when we remove the tapes and everything you see here, here I missed a bit of white page. So touch there. So make sure along your edges, everything is covered with paint. Here I missed a little bit. It's normal to miss a little bit. I mean, it's not a big of a deal. It's just that you make sure you have this ready. So while we let this dry, this one is ready for the next thing. I see that the rocks are very dark and I don't want that. I don't like that. So what I will do is I will take the smallest brush I have. And if you have a stiff brush, that's great. For example, a stiff brush. It's a brush that doesn't bend very much when you touch the bristles. For example, this is not a hard brush, right? Because, yeah, this is not a hard brush anyway. This is a very stiff, hard brush, right? If you don't have one of these, that's fine. What you can do is just take a small brush, like this one. This one is not very stiff, but it doesn't matter. Now, what I want you to do, this is going to be called lifting. We are lifting color from the paper so we can get up and get back some of the paint we put on the paper already. So what we are going to do is we are going to dump, we are going to wet our brush. Sorry for the green water. Then it's super wet. We don't want this wet. We want to dab it on our paper towel. You see, it's still wet. You can do it like this to feel, okay, yes, a little bit wet. Okay, I'm doing it again because it's still a bit wet. And now I will go over the same spot for some time. And I'm going to then take some paper towel and dab it here. You see the line I just made? This was paint before. Let's try it again. So not a lot of water in your brush, okay? Then if you see there's a lot of water, dab your brush again. You just insist on the parts where you want to remove paint, and then you dab it with your cloth or with some paper towel. Okay, so the same here. Like that, we can give texture to the rocks, right? If we put too much pigment before, maybe, or if it's too dark, because we didn't realize it was too dark while it was wet, we realized that it was too dark. Now that it's dry, so imagine that you have that, and now you can even glaze over it. You remember we saw this in the already one of the videos, in the second video, if I'm not wrong. So go check it out if you want. You can glaze over that lifted color to make it more yellowish, maybe. So you can make like a small layer on top. Small layer of horror on top. And you can do the same with anything and everything. For example, imagine you want more foam here on the water. So let's make more foam. Right? Okay, so here's more foam around that rock. And I want more foam here. Just need to insist with a damp brush. Doesn't need to be very, very wet, just a damp brush. You can see here, this is not really like white, okay? It's not white, it's a bit of brighter yellow, like very light yellow. And that's normal because the paint behind, it has already some tint, right? We put quite a thick layer of watercolor on top of that. That's why the paint has tinted already some of the paper, but that's completely fine because it goes very well with the painting. Imagine that we want some waves here and there. So you see, I just made all these little waves. They're just by placing and insisting with some small brush on a part of our painting. And when I see that the brush is not doing anything else, I go back to my towel to remove. You see, I am doing all those little waves myself. I mean, I don't know if this painting has that a lot of sense. I mean, I wouldn't do the waves this way. I mean, I would do them this way, but not that many, maybe. I'm just doing this, I'm exaggerating it so you can see how we can do it, okay? Of course, for example, these lines are very thick to be foam, and I love it. I think it's quite illustrative style, you know, like it's more like a kind of an illustration style. But you can go over a few things and then you can have some highlights. Imagine you want to have some highlights of the sun on the rocks. You can also do that here. You can also lift to just show a highlight of the rock here, right? Like this, right? So those are all the different ways you can lift. What we can do now is we will come back to this and let's remove everything because, well, not everything. Let's remove some trees. I will remove the thinner trees. And this is exactly what I told you to avoid, but that's fine. I don't care. You see, I didn't press down correctly the tape here, and that's why some color went inside, but that's fine because these are trees. Those are great textures from my tree trunks, so that's fine. What I can do now, I was thinking I can either paint here another layer, you know, like I could come back and paint another layer of green. Okay, we'll do just a layer. That's fine. When I paint over these trees, you'll see they are green, but they are a different green. They are not the same green as the background because they were painted a layer after, right? So we need to leave this to dry and then we will remove the washi tape that is there, these washi tapes or maybe the masking fluid there. So let me quickly dry it. Okay, now that this is dry, we will remove this masking fluid. So we have two options. We can remove them with an eraser. We can even remove it with our finger as well. And you will feel this is a kind of plastic. It's not that easy to remove this one, the blue one. And I didn't tell you before, but do not let your masking fluid dry and stay there for more than a day, I would say. Use it and remove it in the same day. At least I had a very bad experience with leaving them more than one day on the page because at the next day I couldn't remove it. So yeah, I don't recommend you to leave it for more than 24 hours on your paper. But yeah, you can see it's being very difficult to remove. I promise you can remove it. You can also use a plastic wrap. There are also some different kind of brushes with silicone tips to remove it. Let me check if I have one here. I should have one. Yes. You don't need any of this. I'm just showing you what's possible. So you know what's out there, but you don't need any of this, honestly, to remove wash masking fluid and this kind of things. If it doesn't remove, it can also happen that it's not dry enough, or that you let it dry for too long. So there are all sorts of reasons why this may not be removed. But you see, with the silicone brush, it's much easier, at least for my masking fluid. There are a ton of different brands. And if you use it, make sure to use it a lot and practice a lot before your good paintings, let's say, because of what I told you, that sometimes it's difficult to remove and it can ruin really a painting. But I wanted to show you that it's possible to remove it. I will also remove the tape for the trees. Remove it slowly, make sure you don't go too fast. And if you see the paper is being damaged by your washi tape, what you can do is you can heat it up with the hair dryer or with a heating gun. But you see, this one, I'm having a very hard time to remove it. I think it's because it's not dry enough. So what I will do is I will dry it up much more with my hair dryer, but not with heat, probably with all the air. And I will show you. So with a lot of effort, I managed to remove some of it, but not everything. I'm sorry. I think I didn't let it dry completely before painting over it, but that's fine. I mean, it's just to show you the possibilities. When you use masking fluid, just make sure you are using it on paper that works well with masking fluid, and also that you're letting it dry enough. Usually it tells you here on the masking fluid some directions. In mine they don't, but usually they have some directions like shake them well before use, don't let them more than 24 hours, things like this. When you have removed the masking fluid, it's like a kind of a rubbery sensation, right? Like a rubbery feeling when you touch it. But when you have removed it completely, you realize you can paint over with watercolors. Okay, so for example, here you can see I can paint over these tree trunks because I could remove the tape completely, right? So I'm making like the tree trunks textures. So textures for a tree trunk. You can make the textures without removing the tape on top, I mean. So yeah, these are tree trunks. think these are birches because they have like gray, white bark. You can also paint another color, huh? The tree trunks. Just that I thought it would be nice to paint them like a birch tree. So honestly, I don't use that much masking fluid because I don't trust it. I don't have very good experience with it. I've tested a few of them. I mean, there are many on the market. So yeah, make sure if you want to use it, because I think it's very useful. Make sure to test it a lot and also to try different brands and see what's the one that works best for your style and for your paper, the paper that you use to use for the watercolors. So yeah, I'm not going to say a lot on the details here of the tree trunk. Well, I'm kind of doing it right. Yeah, we can use the dry brush technique if you remember. To make the paper grain show through the painting. So as you can see, we kind of have these distant trees, and these trees are much on the foreground than the other trees that are in the background. I'm doing this quickly just to show you what you can get, but honestly, it's not my best piece. Before going, I want to show you another thing you can do. We learned already how to mask, we learned already how to lift. There's another way you can lift, I will show you in a minute. And I know this will be surprising for some of you, but it's good to have it in mind. You know this, there's these magic sponges, eraser magic sponges or something like that. I will show you right now. And with these Iridium magic sponges, let me pick up one. So these are the magic sponges I'm talking you about. This you use them to clean like the, for example, the walls, or when your kids paint on the wall or something white, etc. The other thing you need to do is you need to make them wet. Okay, a bit wet. Okay, oops. I dropped some water on my painting, but that's okay. And then with a corner, when they are wet, I mean, they're not that wet, they are just damp, a bit damp, you can do this. And then the same way we did for the brush, it needs to be wet, right? If otherwise it doesn't lift the color. Then with a paper towel, we need to remove the water. You see? So it's also possible with this kind of tool to make it to lift. It's useful sometimes. It's quite abrasive though, so if you insist a lot on it, just know that you are damaging your paper. Okay, so use with moderation. And then I just wanted to tell you the last thing you can do whenever you want to paint white and you don't want to mask or lift color, you can just use white pens. I use a Posca pen or jelly pen, it doesn't matter. Or you can use, as I told you before, the gouache. the acrylic gouache here just to paint some white on top. The good thing about the markers is that they allow you to be quite thin with your lines, especially for the sea foam or for some smaller details, right? So don't hesitate to use them. I know there are many watercolor purists out there that don't like to use white. For me, I say as long as you want to use them, as long as this makes you make art easier, I am so happy with them. I always use them. I don't care about purist watercolor techniques, honestly. So feel free to experiment with these. I hope you enjoyed it. I know this chapter is a little bit more technique and yes, a little bit more wide. So just take the ones that you like, the ones that you would like to try, and let me know how it goes. Of course, I didn't see any question in the chat or no one asking. So if you have questions when you watch the replay, don't hesitate to tell me. I'm here just to help you out. So please don't be shy. And yeah, I will try to sum up the lessons on a PDF soon and upload it to Patreon. I will also put a list of my favorite materials in case you want to buy some materials or to upgrade some of your materials. So yeah, keep an eye on Patreon. Thank you so much for joining me and see you in the next one. Bye. Sorry, I just came back because I realized I forgot two methods more you can use to lift your watercolor paint. So I will show them to you very quickly. I will paint some sky, and these ones are very fun. These two ones are very fun and very easy to make. So I wanted to make sure you have them as well. So imagine you are painting some blue sky, like this, and you want to make some clouds. So sorry for the mess, but I want to show you quickly. So what you can do is you can take toilet paper, paper towels, whatever, and then you make the shape you want to make and you make the clouds, right? So you can also use this technique to lift some paint and make it cloud-like. If you see this one is already too full of white, you can also, you see, you can press more for whiter results when you have it this way. You can also add a bit of colors below to just to help the contrast. Okay, you can help the contrast of the sky, or even paint them over them again and again. Lift a bit more here if you didn't like the shape. So yeah, this is one way you can make clouds or other kind of shapes by lifting using your paper towels. And another way you can use, it's to use salt, but this is more like a kind of effect. I don't know if I would call this lifting. You just take salt when it's wet. It's very important that it's still wet, and you place it on your wet surface. It's very important that you let it dry very well before removing the salt. And it's also very important that, it doesn't always work. It works, depends on the salt, depends on the paper, and we don't have a lot of control over it, but that's fine. We don't need to have a lot of control over it. It's just that it's a fun method to mask. When you remove it, you will see what's going on. I will show you in a second. So as you can see on this paper, it didn't work that well. Have some effect, some white dots here and there of the salt. There is nothing now, like all salt is left. But yeah, in some places you can see this fun pattern. Sometimes it works much better. I think it's because of the paper. Maybe I think it's expired, but that's fine. Sometimes they make like beautiful, like blooms and cauliflower effect. So sometimes it's very, very nice. I just encourage you to keep exploring and testing them yourself and let me know if you need anything or if you try them out. I would love to see that. Now, yes, it's time to go. Bye.